Welcome to Screw Crime, where the monsters don't hide under your bed. They mow your lawn. They sing in your church choir. They tuck their kids in, and they kill. Tonight we're unraveling the twisted tale of Dennis Lynn Rader, the man who gave himself a name, BTK, bind, torture, kill. He was a father, a church president, a dog catcher. And he was also the silent storm behind 10 murders that haunted Wichita, Kansas, for over 30 years. Sit back, don't get comfortable, because this story doesn't end when the killing stops. Act 1, 1974, The Monster Awakens. It was a cold Kansas morning in January 1974. 4 members of the Otero family were found dead inside their home. Joseph and Julie Otero, their children, Joseph Jr., just 9, and Josephine, 11, tied up, strangled, one by one. But it was Josephine who suffered the longest. Rader hung her in the basement, and then he masturbated next to her body. He left no fingerprints, no DNA, just a message, buried in silence. That was his first. And like all predators who find their taste for blood, Dennis didn't stop. He began choosing women, watching them. He called it project stalking. He'd catalog their routines, sketch their houses, fantasize about how he'd take them. He was methodical, military, controlled. He wasn't sloppy. He was spiritual about it. Act 2, bind, torture, kill. Rader didn't want to just kill. He wanted the world to know who he was. He mailed a letter to the Wichita Eagle, then the police, then KAKETV. In his letters, he described the murders in graphic detail, suggested names for himself. He picked the one that stuck, BTK, bind, torture, kill. He signed it like a brand, like an artist. And like any artist, Rader kept records, drawings, fantasies, Polaroids of himself in women's clothing, tied up in the same ways he posed his victims. He staged elaborate bondage scenarios in his basement, photographed himself in them, and labeled the images like trophies. Some drawings were disturbingly detailed. Women tied to chairs, gagged, with exaggerated expressions of fear. One sketch depicted a woman hanging from a pipe, eerily similar to the scene with Josephine Otero. His artwork became a reflection of his inner world, a ritualistic visual diary of power, humiliation, and control. Act 3, The Psychological Profile. After his arrest in 2005, forensic psychologists analyzed Dennis Rader's behavior, art, and journals. He was diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, grandiosity, lack of empathy, the constant need for admiration. He also showed signs of obsessive-compulsive disorder. Extremely organized, detail-oriented, meticulous. His murders were planned with military precision. He even kept lists of items to bring for each kill. But the most chilling diagnosis, antisocial personality disorder. No remorse, no conscience, no empathy. Rader's ability to compartmentalize, to be a loving father while secretly strangling strangers, baffled even veteran profilers. Dr. Catherine Ramsland, who studied him extensively, called it a perfect storm of pathology and patience. Act 4, The Vanishing. From 1991 to 2004, BTK went silent. No murders, no letters, no evidence. Dennis Rader raised 2 children, attended church every Sunday, led the Boy Scouts, enforced lawn ordinances. He was the man who waved at neighbors, left baked goods at church, but he never stopped being BTK. He just moved the killing inside, into his mind, into his journals, into his art. He drew women in bondage, hung upside down, tied to pipes, sketched over and over again. He had entire folders labeled with names, photos, diagrams, and fantasies. He created an entire imaginary world of victims. Psychologists believe he stopped killing not out of morality, but because he feared getting caught. Age dulled his impulses, but never killed them. Act 5. A fatal mistake. In 2004, Dennis Rader sent a letter to the local news station. Then a puzzle. Then a Barbie doll dressed to mimic one of his victims. He wanted attention again. He asked police, "If I send you a floppy disk, can you trace it?" They said, "No." They lied. He sent it anyway. The metadata led to Christ Lutheran Church, to a man named Dennis Rader. Police grabbed DNA from his daughter's medical records. It matched BTK. They arrested him in his car on February 25th, 2005. He went quietly, calmly, like he'd been waiting for it. Act 6, the final act. In the interrogation room, Rader spilled everything. Each murder, each fantasy, each failure. He talked about his victims like files. This one was Project Cookie. That one was Project Foxtrot. No remorse. No tears. Just pride. He even drew new bondage art in prison. Some pieces showed himself in cages, wearing bras and wigs. Others, women gagged and bound in the same positions as his victims. This wasn't just memory. It was reliving. He pled guilty to 10 counts of first-degree murder. He received 10 life sentences. He's still alive, in solitary, writing, drawing, being BTK. Summary: how he could have gotten away. If Dennis Rader hadn't sent that floppy disk, he might have died a free man. If he hadn't craved recognition, if he'd kept his art private, destroyed his notes, stayed quiet. He had no digital footprint for decades, no witnesses, no physical evidence. His downfall wasn't sloppiness, it was ego, the need to be known. And that, not forensics, is what cracked the case. Outro, questions, reflection, CTA. Dennis Rader didn't wear a mask. He wore normalcy. He wore your neighbor's smile. BTK was never just about murder. It was about power, control, ritual. And even in prison, he's still drawing it, living it, becoming it. Question time. What does BTK's art reveal about who he really was? Could his family really not have known anything? Why do you think he needed to be seen so badly? Should we even give people like him attention? How many others like BTK are out there, living unnoticed? Drop your answers in the comments and add your own questions. This space isn't just for stories, it's for truth. If this story hit you, shook you, or made you question what's real, support the channel. Cash App, $forrestjob. PayPal, A Divine Destiny LLC @gmail.com. And hit subscribe, because this is just one face of evil. And we've got more to expose. This is Screw Crime, where we don't just tell the story, we drag it into the light.